Chapter 8. The Transience of Life. Remember this to keep you from vanity. You can't be praised as someone who has lived a philosopher's life from youth, because both you and others know that you've acted contrary to that ideal. You've faltered in your journey, and it'll be hard for you to regain the title and respect of a philosopher, especially given your profession. If you truly understand what's important, don't worry about your reputation. It's enough if you live the rest of your life, regardless of its length, as nature intended. Strive to understand what your nature requires, and let nothing else distract you. You've already experienced that you can't find happiness in syllogisms, wealth, honor, reputation, or pleasure. Happiness is found in practicing what man's nature requires. How can you do this? By having right and true beliefs from which all action stems. The only things truly good and beneficial for man are those which make him just, temperate, brave, and generous. The only things truly bad and harmful are those which cause the opposite effects. Before every action, ask yourself, will I regret this once it's done? Soon I'll be dead, and everything will end. What more should I care about than ensuring my current action is the one of a reasonable person, whose goal is the common good, and who is guided by the same law of reason as God himself? What do Alexander, Caius, and Pompeius mean to Diogenes, Heraclitus, and Socrates? The latter delved into the true nature of things, all causes and subjects, and exercised their power and authority accordingly. The former were as enslaved as the extent of their error. What they've done, they'll continue to do, even if you kill yourself. First, don't let it bother you. All things, good and bad, occur according to the nature and general condition of the universe. Soon, everything will end, no one will be remembered, as is already the case with Africanus and Augustus. Secondly, focus on the task at hand, remember your duty to be a good person, and do what your nature requires. Speak what seems most just to you, but do so kindly, modestly, and without hypocrisy. The universe's nature is to transfer what's here to there, to change it, and then to take it away and move it elsewhere. So, you needn't fear anything new. All things are common and ordinary, and all are arranged equitably. Every specific nature is content when it proceeds at its own pace. A rational nature proceeds when it doesn't agree with anything false or uncertain, when it aims only for the common good, desires and avoids only what's within its power, and willingly accepts what the common nature assigns it. For it's part of it, just as a leaf's nature is part of all plants and trees. But a leaf's nature is part of an unreasonable, insensible nature that can be obstructed and is servile. In contrast, man's nature is part of a common nature that can't be obstructed and is both reasonable and just. Hence, it distributes everything equally according to its worth, including duration, substance, form, operation, and events and accidents. Consider not whether you will find this equality in everything individually, but whether in all the aspects of one thing taken together, compared with all the aspects of another thing taken together. You may not have time or opportunity to read. So what? Don't you have time and opportunity to exercise self-discipline, to resist doing wrong to yourself, to strive against physical pleasures and pains, and to rise above them, to scorn honor and vanity, and not only to resist anger towards those who seem insensitive and ungrateful towards you, but also to care for their well-being? Stop complaining about the difficulties of life in court, whether publicly or privately. Repentance is an inner reproach for neglecting or omitting something beneficial. Everything good is also beneficial, and a virtuous person should value it accordingly. But no virtuous person ever regretted neglecting or omitting any physical pleasure, therefore, no physical pleasure is either good or beneficial. Examine everything that comes your way. What is it? What is its nature? What is its purpose in this world, and how long will it last? When you find it hard to wake up from sleep, remind yourself that performing actions for the common good is what your nature requires. But sleeping is common even to irrational creatures. What could be more natural and pleasing than living according to nature? As every thought and imagination presents itself to you, consider its true nature and qualities, and reason with yourself about it. When you meet someone, immediately ask yourself, what are their opinions about good and evil, about pain, pleasure, honor, disgrace, life, and death? If it's not surprising that they hold such opinions, why should it be surprising that they act accordingly? Remember, they can't help but act according to their beliefs. It would be as ridiculous to wonder at a fig tree bearing figs as to wonder at the world producing anything that it naturally can. A doctor shouldn't be surprised when someone has a fever, nor a sailor when the winds are unfavorable. Remember, it's just as admirable to change your mind when someone corrects you as it is to know what's right and just without needing help. Nothing more is required of you than what you can discern and judge for yourself. If it were your action and, in your power, would you do it? If not, who are you blaming? The atoms or the gods? To do either is madness. You should blame no one. If it's in your power, correct what's wrong. If not, what's the point of complaining? Everything should be done with a purpose. Whatever dies and falls, wherever and however it happens, cannot fall out of the world. It was born here, changed here, and here it will dissolve into its elements. The world's elements are the same as yours. They don't complain when they change, why should you? Everything was made for a purpose, a horse, a vine. Why should you be surprised? The sun itself will say it was made for a purpose, and so will every god. What then were you made for? To indulge in pleasures? Even common sense and reason can't accept that. Nature has its purpose in the end and dissolution of things, just as it does in their beginning and continuation. Consider a ball being thrown. Is it any better if it goes up or worse if it goes down, or if it falls to the ground? The same applies to a bubble or a candle. You must think this way about fame and death. As for the body, the subject of death, do you want to see its vileness? Look at it when it's old and withered, sick and in pain, or in the act of lust. As for fame, life is short. Both the one who praises and the one who is praised, the one who remembers and the one who is remembered, will soon be dust and ashes. Furthermore, you are praised only in one corner of the world, and even there, you do not have the unanimous praise of all, nor even the consistent praise of any one person. And yet, what is the entire earth in comparison to the whole universe? It's merely a single point. What you should consider is either the matter at hand, the principle, the action, or the true meaning and significance. You have justly encountered these events. Why don't you improve? You would rather become better tomorrow than today. Should I do it? I will if the outcome of my action is to benefit others. If adversity befalls me, I accept it, acknowledging the gods and their providence, the source of all things, from which everything that happens is derived and depends on. Judge all actions by one, this bathing, which usually consumes so much of our time, what is it? Oil, sweat, dirt, the waste of the body, sticky filth, the waste of oil and other body ointments mixed with the body's waste, all disgusting and repugnant. And such is almost every part of our life, and every worldly object. Lucilla buried Verus, then Lucilla herself was buried by others. So, it was with Secunda Maximus, then Secunda herself. So, it was with Epitincinus, Diotimus, then Epitincinus himself. So, it was with Antoninus Pius, Faustina his wife, then Antoninus himself. This is the way of the world. First seller, Adrianus, then Adrianus himself. And those stern ones, those who predicted others' deaths, those who were so arrogant and stately, where are they now? Those stern ones I mean, such as were Charax, and Demetrius the Platonic, and Eudaemon, and others like them. They were all but for one day, all long dead and gone. Some of them were forgotten as soon as they died. Others soon turned into legends. Of others, even the legends have long been forgotten. Remember this, whatever you are composed of, will soon disperse, and your life and breath, or your soul, will either cease to exist or will be relocated to a specific place. The true joy of a man is to do what is inherently human. What is most inherent to a man is, first, to be kind towards those of the same kind and nature as he is, to reject all sensual desires and appetites, to accurately discern all plausible thoughts and imaginations, to contemplate the nature of the universe, both it and things that occur within it. In this kind of contemplation, three separate relations are to be observed, the first, to the apparent secondary cause. The second, to the original cause, God, from whom everything that happens in the world originates. The third and last, to those we live and interact with, how it can be used for their benefit. If pain is evil, it either affects the body, which can't be, because the body itself is completely insensitive, or the soul. But it's within the soul's power to maintain its own peace and tranquility and not to assume that pain is evil. Because all judgment and deliberation, all desire or aversion comes from within, where the sense of evil, unless it's led in by opinion, cannot penetrate. Erase all pointless thoughts and keep telling yourself, now if I want to, I can prevent all wickedness, all lust and desires, all trouble and confusion from entering my soul. But on the contrary, I can see and consider all things according to their true nature and behave towards everything according to its true value. Remember then this power that nature has given you. Whether you speak in the Senate or to any individual, let your speech always be serious and modest. But you must not openly and commonly adhere to that sound and precise form of speech, concerning what is truly good and truly civil, the vanity of the world, and of worldly men, which otherwise truth and reason prescribe. Consider Augustus's court, his wife, his daughter, his nephews, his sons-in-law, his sister, Agrippa, his relatives, his household, his friends, Arius, Maecenas, his slaughterers for sacrifices and divinations. There you have the death of an entire court. Proceed now to the rest that have been since that of Augustus. Has death dealt with them differently, though so many, and so grand while they lived, than it usually does with any one particular man? Consider now the death of an entire family and lineage, as of that of the Pompeys, as that also that is usually written on some monuments, he was the last of his own lineage. Oh, how much effort did his predecessors put in, so they might leave a successor, yet behold at last one or another must necessarily be the last. Here again, therefore, consider the death of an entire lineage. Condense your entire life to the scale and proportion of a single action. And if in every specific action you perform what is appropriate to the best of your ability, let it suffice you. And who can stop you from performing what is appropriate? But there may be some external obstacle or impediment. None that can prevent you from doing whatever you do, justly, temperately, and with the praise of God. Yes, but there may be something that can obstruct some other action of yours. And then, with that very thing that does obstruct, you may be well pleased, and so by this gentle and calm conversion of your mind to that which may be, instead of that which you initially intended, in place of that former action, another ensues, which aligns just as well with this condensation of your life that we now speak of. Accept temporary blessings without bragging when they are given and be ready to let them go easily when they are taken from you. If you've ever seen a hand, foot, or head severed from the rest of the body, you should think of a person who isolates themselves due to offense or commits actions against the natural law of social cooperation and charity as such a severed part. You were born as a part of the whole, but now you have separated yourself. However, there is a joy in knowing that you can rejoin. Unlike other severed parts, you could reattach yourself if you choose. This is a testament to the immense goodness of the universe, which allows you to return to your original place in the whole. Just as the universe uses everything that opposes it to achieve its ends, every rational creature can use the obstacles they encounter in life to further their own goals and happiness. Don't let the general misery of life trouble you. Don't let your mind dwell on the many troubles you could face. Instead, ask yourself what specifically in the current situation seems unbearable. You'll be embarrassed to admit it. Remember that only the present can hurt you, and even that pain is lessened if you don't blow it out of proportion. See if your mind can endure this momentary discomfort. Do Panthea or Pergamus still remain by their masters' tombs? Or Chabrias or Diotimus by Dionysus? Such devotion is foolish. Even if they did, would their masters be aware? Would they be pleased? And what would happen to their devotees after they themselves inevitably aged and died? All this fuss is a mere sack of blood and decay. If you have sharp judgment, use it wisely. I see no virtue in humans that oppose justice. But there is one that can resist pleasure and indulgence, self-control. If you can remove your preconceived notions about what is harmful or offensive, you are as safe as can be. You are your reason. If there's something in you that's upset, let it feel its own grief, if it can. What hinders the senses is harmful to the sensory nature. What hinders appetites and desires is harmful to the sensitive nature. What hinders the mind and understanding is harmful to rational nature. Apply this to yourself. Are you feeling pain or pleasure? That's for your senses to deal with. Have you encountered an obstacle in your plans? If you didn't plan with possible exceptions in mind, your rational side has indeed been hit. But if you planned for any possibility, you are neither hurt nor truly obstructed. No external force can penetrate the mind. If something is round and solid, there's no fear of it changing. Why should I upset myself when I've never intentionally upset anyone else? Different things bring joy to different people. This is my joy, to have a clear and sound understanding, not rejecting any man or any part of my human experience. To view all things in the world with gentleness and kindness, to accept all things, and to interact with everything based on its true worth. Invest your time in yourself now. Those who seek fame after death don't realize that future generations will be just like the ones they can barely tolerate now. And those future generations will also be mortal. But think about it, if many people with many voices have a certain opinion about you, what does it matter to you? Place me wherever you want, I'm indifferent. For wherever I am, I will have a spirit within me that is content and satisfied, both with its constant state and with the actions that are suitable and agreeable to its nature. Is there anything worth so much that my soul should suffer and become worse than it was, either through humiliation, disorder, confusion, or fear? What can be so valuable? Nothing can happen to you that is not natural to you as a human. Just as nothing can happen to an ox, a vine, or a stone that is not natural to them. So, if nothing unnatural can happen, why are you upset? Surely, nature wouldn't bring anything that's unbearable. If it's something external causing your grief, it's not the thing itself, but your perception of it. You can change that perception anytime. If it's something within you causing grief, can't you correct your beliefs and opinions? If you're upset because you're not doing what's right, why not choose to do it instead of being upset? If something stronger than you is preventing you, don't be upset if it's not your fault. If it's something so important that life isn't worth living without it, you can lead this life kindly and lovingly disposed towards everyone, even those who hinder you. Remember that your mind becomes invincible when it relies only on itself and seeks contentment in its own strength. No one has a stronger or better fortified refuge than a mind free from passions. Those who don't see this are ignorant. Those who see it but don't take refuge in it are unfortunate. Stick to your initial perceptions of things as they present themselves to you, and don't add to them. If you hear someone speaking ill of you, that's all you've heard. You haven't heard that you're hurt by it, that's an addition to your own opinion which you should exclude. If you see your child is sick, you see the sickness, not the danger to their life. This is how you should approach things, stick to the initial impressions, and don't add to them from your own conjecture. Or rather, add to them, but as one who understands the true nature of all things that happen in the world. Is the cucumber bitter? Put it aside. Are there brambles in the way? Avoid them. Don't immediately ask, what purpose do these things serve in the world? Someone who understands the mysteries of nature would laugh at you for this, as a carpenter or shoemaker would if you criticized them for having shavings or scraps in their workshop. Unlike a workshop, the universe has no outside. It can transform what seems corrupt, old, or useless into new things, without needing new material or a place to discard the old. Thus, the universe, in terms of space, material, and skill, is self-sufficient. Don't be lazy or negligent in your actions. Don't be unruly or troublesome in your conversations. Don't let your thoughts and imaginations wander aimlessly. Don't limit your potential or act recklessly. Always be productive. They harm me, they hurt me, they curse me. So what? Can't your mind remain pure, wise, temperate, and just? Like a fountain of clear water, even if someone curses it, the water remains clear and sweet. Even if dirt or filth is thrown in, it is quickly dispersed, and the water remains clear. It can't be tainted or infected. So, what should I do to have an overflowing fountain within me, not just a well? Strive continuously for true freedom with love, and true simplicity and modesty. The one who doesn't know what the world is, doesn't know where he himself is. And the one who doesn't know what the world was made for, can't possibly know the world's qualities or nature. If someone is ignorant in these matters, they also won't know what they themselves were made for. What do you think of a man who seeks the praise of people who are ignorant of their own place in nature? Do you want to be praised by someone who frequently curses himself? Do you want to please someone who doesn't please himself? Or do you think someone who regrets almost everything they do is pleased with themselves? From now on, not only share the same breath with the air that surrounds us, but also share the same mind with the rational substance that encompasses everything. This substance is everywhere, just like the air, if you can absorb it. Wickedness in general doesn't harm the world. Specific wickedness doesn't harm anyone else, it only harms the person who commits it, who can be freed from it as soon as they desire. My neighbor's free will is indifferent to me, just as his life or body is. Although we are all made for each other, our minds and understandings each have their own jurisdiction. Otherwise, another person's wickedness could harm me, which God wouldn't want, as it would mean someone else has the power to make me unhappy. Only my own wickedness can do that now. The sun appears to be spread out. And indeed, it is dispersed, but not poured out. This dispersion is an extension. That's why sunbeams are called rays, from the word meaning to be stretched out and extended. You can understand what a sunbeam is if you observe sunlight piercing through a small hole into a dark room. It always travels in a straight line. And if it encounters a solid body that air can't penetrate, it is divided and interrupted, but it doesn't slide off or fall, it stays there. The mind should be like this, not pouring out but extending. It should meet obstacles and impediments with light, not with force. If something doesn't accept the light, it's its own fault and loss. Whoever fears death either fears losing all sensation or fears that their senses will change. They should comfort themselves with the thought that they will either lose all sensation and thus not feel any evil, or if they retain any sensation, they will be in another life and thus not truly dead. All people are made for each other, so either teach them better or tolerate them. The movement of the mind is not like the movement of a dart. The mind, when it is careful and cautious, and looks around diligently, can be said to be moving straight towards its goal, even when it is being circumspect. Try to understand the state of everyone's understanding that you interact with, also make your own state of understanding open and accessible to others. Summary of Chapter 8. Marcus Aurelius reflects on the impermanence of life in this chapter. He reminds readers that everything is fleeting and encourages them to appreciate the present moment and not become overly attached to material possessions. He famously stated, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth."